Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news and lots to unpick. This morning we've got Erik ten Hag's press conference to come at lunchtime, as we know, but there's lots going on this morning. It feels like journalists have come back from their holidays on the international break and they're ready to go, and we're ready to go as well. We're going to start off talking about the January transfer window. I didn't expect to be talking this morning, but there's been two updates from Rob Dawson and Samuel Luckhurst I want to get into. But Niall 23 in the chat says, I'll be completely shocked if we sign a player in January. The club is skint. I actually read that as the club is shit, which is not wrong. So the club is skint. Interestingly enough as well, Beth on Twitter off the channel, I've just read one of her tweets this morning saying that the fact that we're talking about playing Anthony Elanga up front in the Manchester derby completely shows why we need to be buying a striker ASAP. And I do agree with that as well. So some good points coming in this morning. But the place I want to start with is that Rob Dawson has done an article saying that Manchester United are not planning a major revamp of their squad in January and will instead wait until the summer to make further changes to the squad. That's very interesting, I suppose. It's very interesting when you add it into the tweet that I did this morning talking about NKUNKU, a player that many of us like from Leipzig, who has already completed a medical for Chelsea. To move next summer. This is coming in reports from Bild this morning. It's now being picked up by Chelsea correspondents that Chelsea are so advanced in their transfer planning for next summer that Vardiel and NKUNKU could both be Chelsea players confirmed very soon. So other clubs are up and ready to go for next summer, whereas Manchester United may not be willing to dip into the January transfer market. In fact, there's some interesting quotes to bring you from Samuel Luckhurst's Q&A, where he basically said that he feels that the interest in Gakpo from Manchester United may be slightly overstated in the sense that Manchester United may not have even been in for him in the summer and certainly may not be looking at him in January. So it's interesting because he also speaks about the Glazers, and I agree with what he had to say about that. But let's focus on this for the moment. I expect Gakpo is going to be wearing a Leeds or Southampton shirt in January, the way things are going. And look, whether Gakpo is the right player for Manchester United or not, I do agree with what Niall said at the start. I think there's a real issue around the amount of money that Manchester United spent in the summer and the amount of money we overspent in the summer. We're all very happy with the signings of Casemiro and Antony and Martinez, but we overpaid on all of those deals. There was surplus 50 million spent on across those deals that we didn't need to spend if we'd negotiated properly. And when you're owned by people like the Glazers and you overspend on 50 million, you're never getting that 50 million back. In fact, they're probably never going to give you any more. So I would say that there probably isn't any money available for Manchester United to spend in the summer, very much, and certainly not in January. But the difficulty is, if you go back to what Rob Dawson said, that Man United, and it's the second time we've heard this in the last 3 weeks, I think it was John Murtagh, who is the director of football, who actually said just before the international break that Manchester United's plans will be to not go as hard as they did this summer, but look to next summer. So we're already getting these messages from the club that the money ain't really there. And if there is any money, it'll be spent next summer. And it's frustrating as it is disappointing because the job we need to do is massive. It's absolutely massive. We are not in a situation... I mean, Man City just won the league and they bought Erling Haaland. Like, the blueprint, literally blueprint, is to spend when you are doing well. Manchester United have almost got this attitude that, well, we've bought a few players, that's it now. We've shown that we can spend money, let's leave it. Like, it needs sustained investment into that football club. We know that the ground needs rebuilding or restructuring or whatever. We know the infrastructure in the club needs a lot of money spending on it, and we know that the team needs a lot of money spending on it. So it's all fine and well saying we're not going to buy any players until next summer, but that's all right if you've got the squad that you need for this season. Look at the situation we are in going into the Manchester derby. Martial's out, Rashford's out, Ronaldo is out of form, and Elanga, I like Elanga, but I'd agree with most people who don't rate Elanga that he's not ready. He's far from ready. So we are giving a new manager that everybody's excited about absolutely no backing in the most important area of the pitch, which is scoring goals. And look, if Rashford and Martial come back and stay fit and play well, and Elanga develops, we don't need a striker in January. But if Anthony Martial or Marcus Rashford continue to be injury prone and Elanga doesn't develop, we're desperate for a striker in January. So To sit here as a football club and go, yeah, we're not doing anything in January, which is the sort of tactic that Manchester United would employ, is as ignorant as it is stupid, because we're already in a position where if January the 1st was today, we'd have to be logically going out and buying a striker, but the club are going to go, no, we're going to wait till the summer. It's the same reason we missed out on top four last year, and it's not discussed enough. Do you reckon Ivan Toney is a good signing for striker? If not, who would you like? Says Harry King. I mean, I think there's plenty out there, Harry, but the point is the club need to have an appetite to go and do it. But I don't think it gets discussed enough that I was looking last night at Manchester United's season last year. If you type in Man United 21-22, you'll get the Wikipedia page for Man United season 21-22. Go to the Premier League results. And the interesting thing is that actually Ole Gunnar Solskjaer had 13 points after 6 games. And Erik Ten Hag has got 12 after 6. But that's not the comparison I'm talking about, because Solskjaer went and took 4 from his next 6 games. So Ten Hag is better than Solskjaer. That's not the conversation. But if you look at when Ralf Rangnick came into the club in December, from December until February, we didn't lose hardly any games in the league. We didn't. There was a few too many draws, but we didn't lose. I don't think we lost a game. We certainly didn't do... There's not many reds there. That's what I'm saying. And it got me thinking about something that really doesn't get mentioned. We finished the season badly, and there was a lot of toxicity around the dressing room that Rangnick inherited and had to deal with. But on paper, and the games weren't particularly hard on paper, to be honest, but December, January and into February, we weren't losing games in the Premier League. What happened in January? Didn't buy anybody. Now, whether it was a midfielder or whether it was an attacker, don't tell me that couldn't have improved a really shit squad. We didn't do it. When is this club going to learn that you can't just close your eyes to the January transfer window because you don't want to spend? And it's the frustration that everybody feels, isn't it, in the relation to how the club's being run. January prices will be super high with the World Cup inflation. Every player will be overpriced like most summers after Euros or World Cup, says Seb. But that's not an excuse, Seb. I'll go back to what I said there. Anthony Martial is injured. He's not even recovered from the injury he had in mid-August. We're now going into October. He's injured. Marcus Rashford was a knock 4 weeks ago against Arsenal. He's still not back in full training. These are 2 players that have got no reason not to want to get back. They've been revitalised under Erik Ten Hag, and yet they're not back after 4 weeks and 6 weeks because they're injured. There is no question mark about Martial or Rashford not fancying it. Oh, I don't really want to get back. They will be absolutely motivated and hungry to get back, and they can't get back because they're injured. They can't get back. So you're saying, well, we can't buy anyone in January. Well, you might not be saying that, Seb, but you're saying prices will be inflated in January. We need a striker. We can't just sit there and go, let's wait till next summer, because we're writing off a season again. Like, we need striker now. We've got Ronaldo and that's it. Elanga's not a striker and Martial and Rashford aren't fit. We are short up front. So I suppose it's the indoctrinated way that the Glazers have manipulated this certain sections of our fan base, that some fans will go, January's not a good time to sign, prices will be high. Who gives a shit? Who gives a shit? Are you the bank manager of Manchester United? Are you the director of football? Is it your money? I'm telling you now, there are certain clubs in world football and in the Premier League that in January, if they were in United's position, they would go and buy a striker. Will we go and do it? Probably not. Should we do it? 100%. I think we should. But as I said, if Rashford and Martial can get back fit and stay fit, then, it's a different story. But I don't. I've said this about Martial. I like Martial, but I think he's almost in the Cavani camp now, where he plays well at the weekend, and then on the Friday press conference, out of nowhere, Ten Hag comes out and says Martial's picked up a knock. That's what I feel about Martial at the moment. I feel he could well be a lost cause if he can't get fit and stay fit. I'm very nervous about Martial. I think Martial's the one player in the team I never know from day to day whether we're going to hear he's got an injury again. Rashford concerns me for a different reason. I think he was overplayed by Solskjaer like Martial was, but I just think he's never really had a clear run at staying fit. But we do need a striker, and if we're going to wait for the summer, I don't know. Sign Nico from YouTube All Stars. If you know, you know, says Ben Castle. So we'll have to wait and see. Of course, we'll have to wait and see. But I think we need a striker, and I think we need a striker in January. And I think that there are options out there, and I think Cody Gakpo is certainly one of those options. Whether United will go and do it or not, I think the noise around United and even coming from the director of football at the moment is that won't happen. And it frustrates me. It does frustrate me because I think we've got a manager here who, I was talking about this last night, there's a manager here that is so good and so intelligent and so motivated and so hardworking and so obsessive, and we've got to give him the tools to do the job. You look at how this season started. January will depend on the Glazer out noise, says Seb Watson. We'll talk about the Glazer out noise in a minute. You look at Erik ten Hag, right? He's on the M6. When I go to Manchester, I have to go on the M6. The M6 is a motorway in the UK. So I'm on the quickest way for me to get to Manchester is the M6, right? And for a lot of people who are coming from the Midlands or down south or wherever. So Ten Hag is on the M6 to Manchester, yeah? And he hits Brighton. He doesn't. They're the other way. And Brentford, they're the other way. But there are obstacles in the road, right? The M6 is shut. You can't get through. Are you going to queue up for ages or are you going to find another way? And what Ten Hag did is he used the sat-nav and went a different route. He's gone round it. Instead of continuing up the M6 because that's the way he knows, he's gone off a B road or whatever to find a way to Manchester. And it will take slightly longer, but he's found a different way. And what I mean by that is that Ten Hag has a principle of how he wants to play football. He wants to play the high line, the high possession, the create the chances. He tried to do it against Brentford and Brighton, and we got smacked up. So he's found another way. That to me, and that other way is be a little bit more defensive, a little bit more counter-attacking, a little bit deeper, protect your goal and try and get a goal. He's changed his principles. He's gone a different route. That is a very intelligent manager. I have seen managers come to the Premier League, lose a few games and stick to their guns and their principles. And Ten Hag adapted his principles very, very quickly. Very, very quickly. And that to me shows we've got a manager here that's somebody that's we really need to look out for. We really need to back. And it frustrates me when there are areas of that team that need immediate attention and we start talking about we're going to wait till the summer. Because by waiting till the summer, what if in the summer centre-back's an issue because Harry Maguire wants to leave and Lindelof wants to leave? What if right-backs become absolutely essential because Wan-Bissaka's gone? Like, we can't... United have had this problem over recent years of stacking up the problems. Like, it's took us 3 years to get a centre defensive midfielder. That should have been done 3 years ago. And the problem with that is, because we didn't do it 3 years ago, 60 million on Casemiro, which could have gone for another striker. You know what I mean? Like, we stack problems up. So in the summer, if we buy the striker, do we not get the right back or the centre back? And do we keep players that we shouldn't keep? We're always kicking the ball down the road instead of actually just dealing with the issues right in front of us. Is there a striker from the Premier League that would suit United and is available in January that you would love to see in a United shirt, says Rashid? I don't know. I don't know. I'm not saying the January market's easy, but I think that we can't put up with this situation we're in now. We can't be in a situation where we've got 2 players out injured and we're basically relying on Elanga and Ronaldo. It's not good enough. And you know, we have to be backing this manager better than we are. Ivan Toney in January would be very difficult, Bandy. But look, that's the story around Gakpo at the moment, is that potentially that deal won't be a deal that United will even look at doing because they won't want to be active in the January transfer window, which to me is amazing because I'm telling you now, if we don't sort out the striker issue, then we may well not be in the Champions League positions. Mark, we will paste up front to hit City on a break. We will paste up front, says Desmond. Sounds like we're wallpapering. Mitrovic is a good call. I don't think there's a profile of striker that you can rule out. I did that video last week. I don't think there's a profile of striker that you can move out. But I will reiterate a concern. Martial and Rashford, I mean, unless we get a real surprise from Ten Hag at lunchtime, Martial and Rashford are out of this Manchester derby and they've been injured for ages. And both players, in my opinion, would be desperate to be back playing. And they're not. They're significant injuries. Right at the start of the season. How many more are they going to pick up? It's a concern. It's an injury concern, but it is a concern. And We can't be carrying players like this in a season like this, in a rebuild like this, in a competitive season like this. We need goal scorers. And suddenly, Ronaldo is very important. Morning, Mark. I saw something that Ten Hag will get 70 million in January. Mikhail Roach, I'd love to know where you've heard that, because it's completely contrary to what we're hearing this morning and what the club are putting out there, to be honest with you. But as I said, NKUNKU potentially was an option. Chelsea are going to go for him, and Vardiel. They've already got them lined up for next summer. Chelsea are not Man City and Liverpool. Chelsea are another competitor for us. Chelsea are a team that want to be in that top four with Arsenal and Spurs. Where are we in this game? I think that short term, very, very, very excited by what Ten Hag is doing. But long term, you've got to keep adding to that squad and taking away. There's got to be construction ongoing whilst Ten Hag he's going to run out of road. Basically, the path to success must be built. Ten Hag is got us moving. United need to keep building that road in front of him. Otherwise, we just stop. And that's what worries me. I think we're moving with Ten Hag in the right direction, but I don't think the club's building the path for him, or the road, or whatever you want to call it. I don't think it is. We're not future planning as well as I think we should do. The noises are not great when you're talking about summer. I mean, it makes me want to throw up how Manchester United's run, to be honest with you. I was disgusted 2 weeks ago when bloody John Murtaugh's talking about we don't expect to have the investment we've just had last summer in the future, and we're focused on next summer. Fucking idiot! Like the January transfer window's there, and we've got more holes in that team than a hedgehog's lilo. There are holes in that team that still need to be filled. Don't bloody start having a party because you've had a free trip to Turin and Barcelona and spent overpaid on players. Like, there's so much more that needs to be done. David or Gakpo would be achievable in January, I think. Would love us to pursue Lautaro Martinez in the summer, but I can't see it happening, says James. The problem is, and I completely respect the conversation of, is it worth going for a Gakpo or David in the summer, in the January, or is it worth waiting till the summer to get somebody who might be better? That's a conversation I can have. But the conversation I can't have is we're not even looking in January because we're going to wait till the summer. That's not, in my opinion, you're writing the season off because you are severely hindering our chances this year. As I say, if Martial and Rashford could guarantee that they're going to be fit between now and the end of the season, you could probably wait till the summer. But we're not in that position at the moment. You've got to be looking, and you've got to be looking at options. And look, the best option in the world would be somebody from the youth team just blasts through and becomes amazing. But the chances of that and the pressure of that are not great, are they really? But it was interesting. I was reading what Samuel Lucas was talking about, and he was saying that the priorities for United next summer are a striker and a goalkeeper, and they won't be cheap. I disagree with him on that. I think a striker is needed, and I think a goalkeeper is worth looking at. But I don't think that a goalkeeper is as high a priority as people are making out. I mean, right back, another midfielder, certainly another centre-back. And these are positions that are just as important in my mind. And I'm not dismissing the fact that we might need a goalkeeper, but we don't need two players. We need about 5 or 6. I cannot get on board with we only need a striker and a goalkeeper. We need a striker, potentially a goalkeeper, definitely a right back, definitely another centre-back, and possibly another midfielder. So we are still 5, 6 players away from being competitive, in my opinion. That doesn't mean we can't be competitive in the short term, but yeah. And I do think, and I might be in a minority here, but I do think centre-back is a priority for Manchester United. Not buying Sesko was a huge mistake. I can't forgive the board for that, says Charlie. Oni says it's a priority. I don't think it's the priority, Oni. I don't really. I think there's many more positions in that team that are just as important. The Premier League should be held accountable as to how the Glazers were allowed to buy United. Any more news on the takeover? I'm going to talk about that in a minute, Lee, because there is an update from Samuel Luckhurst around that. But I think we need a centre-back. I think we need another centre-back because I think that it's such a different option if Varane or Martinez is injured to bring in Lindelof or Maguire. They're so different to the way that Martinez and Varane play. And it got me thinking that you think about Ajax and you think about Ten Hag and you think about how he lined his centre-backs up, and I mean, people obsess about their height, but basically what he was doing is, however you describe it, Martinez and Timber are almost centre midfielders in how they play. Like, they are very good on the ball, very mobile, very good at reading the game, and like to play high up. Like, they basically... I'd be very surprised if Martinez or Timber couldn't do a job in a midfield for a decent side. So he's almost playing with two centre midfielders at centre-back. And that is why I think he will still want Timber, because I think that's the sort of centre-back that he wants. And it's very Dutch. It is very Dutch. Although we've seen Barcelona do it in the past with Mascherano. This centre-back approach where you have players that are almost midfielders, really. We need another centre-back at Manchester United, because I don't think Lindelof's bad on the ball, but I don't think he's comfortable playing in a 2 high up, which is what we want to evolve to be. And I certainly don't think Maguire is, because he's not mobile enough. And Varane's obviously very mobile, so he can do it. So I think we need to bring another centre back in. And you look at Martinez. He's a midfielder playing at centre back. I don't want him to play in the midfield, but we do need another centre back that can do what Martinez and Varane can do. And I think if we lose one of those if we rotate or we lose one of those, we're short. So I personally feel that a centre back is very, very important for Manchester United, just to give us rotation options and injury options. And I wouldn't be surprised if we did try and go back in for Timber, but it won't be cheap, because Ajax will see us coming. Ajax will see us coming for Timber. So we need an influx of cash at Manchester United, which brings us on to the next point. I don't know whether you read the article that Samuel Luckhurst did in the Manchester Evening News, but it sort of echoes what I've been saying. He was saying that, this noise in the summer from Sir Jim Radcliffe and, the willingness to buy Manchester United from numerous people who are interested is all well and good, but where is the appetite from the Glazers to actually go? And the Glazers actually attended the Brighton game, the first home game of the season. There was Glazers there, and there was protests there. And he was saying in the article, look, they're pretty much protected because they've got the Atlantic Ocean to protect them. They're over in America, but they'll even come over and watch a game when there's protests and songs about them in the stadium. So they're not outwardly looking like they're being that impacted by the noise or the interest in the club. And they may well intend to stay. But we come back to the same thing. Without investment in that football club, we're going to struggle. We've got a manager that I 100% believe in. And then you've got a board that's saying the money's not really there next summer. We won't be spending as much as we did last summer. And we're not going to spend in January. There's so many ways that you can interpret that, but I suppose the most obvious way to interpret is, right, we need to completely rebuild this house. You've let me do the living room, and now you're saying, that's it, there's no more money for the kitchen, the downstairs toilet, the garage, the upstairs bedrooms, there's no money to do that. How are we rebuilding this house then? And that's what it feels like at the moment, because we 100% need a lot of investment into that club, which 100% the Glazers don't want to do and probably don't have. So it's an interesting take, and I think that, look, the Glazer out movement, protests, everything are not going to stop, and I don't think anybody wants them to stop, but it doesn't mean that the Glazers are going to sell. I think that I'm going to stick with what I said last night and what I've said a few times before. I think that the Glazers will sell because of the stadium. I think they'll sell because of the fact that the club, there is no way back. I think the Glazers are in a position, and I'm completely speculating here, but I think they're in a position where they are thinking about selling but don't want to sell. And I don't think the protests are the reason they're thinking of selling. I think the reason that they are thinking of selling is because they know they've got to spend a lot of money on the ground, and that's a lot of money. But I think the thing that might be holding them off is that they may naively think they found another Sir Alex Ferguson in Ten Hag who can win them titles and make them money off no investment. Because that's basically what Sir Alex did. I know we spent bits, but we never spent anywhere near as much as we should have done. I mean, bloody hell, we needed a midfielder for about 5 years and he never got one. So I'm wondering if the club, the Glazers, are just thinking, Let's just see what happens over the next few months, because if Ten Hag starts working miracles with what we've given him and we don't need to invest, then there might be a way back for us to keep boosting the value of the club. But I still hold true to the fact that they haven't got the money to invest in the stadia, and that is the best way of them getting out. So we'll see. Big up, Mark. For me, Rashford was huge in beating City on the counter. Do you think we'll have another method of breaking them down now he's out, says Jason? It's a blow. It's a big blow. Cannot keep forking out 200 million each year. City do it, but accumulate from player sales as well. This is our problem, says Charlie Max. Yeah, the way that we've been run into the ground by the Glazers, it is a broken plan. I think many of us have said that for quite a while, and it's certainly one that's going to cause us problems in the future. I mean, the thing about United, I think we'll all agree, is that we're all feeling very positive at the moment because we've got a manager that we like and the team's performing well. But it's a fine balancing act. We're only a couple of results from everything going bad. We're only a couple of results from everything looking really good. But the long-term plan is flawed. Like, the short term looks very exciting with Ten Hag, and you could say the short term is literally the game on Sunday, and who knows what happens after that. But relatively speaking, I think the short term is reason to be more positive than we have been for the last 2, 3, maybe 4 or 5 years. But long term, it's not sustainable. It's just not sustainable that we're weak up front, we're weak at the back, and we're weak in the midfield. And what I mean by that is that beyond 13, 14, 15 players, we walk into problems. If Dalot gets injured, we've got a major problem at right back. That's scary. And it's true. If Dalot gets injured for 2 months, we are in trouble. Massively in trouble. Like, there is nobody that can come in and do what he's been doing. We need someone to just completely revamp their game. If we lose Eriksen, we're in massive trouble. Nobody can do what Eriksen does from that position. Now, I hope that Donny can do it, but a lot of people have written him off. So we're in massive trouble if we lose Eriksen. If we lose Martinez or Varane, we're screwed, because you're going to have to use Lindelof or Maguire in a position that they're not comfortable in. Up front, we're already in trouble. Martial and Rashford out. What have we got? Ronaldo, who maybe doesn't want to be here, is a bit out of form, but whatever Ronaldo is, doesn't suit counter-attacking football. So, and that's just 3 areas where we lose a player and we're in big trouble. We're fragile. That's the word. We're fragile. If everybody's fit, I've never known an international break where you're watching every single game and you're like, international game, hoping that they come through it unscathed. That we're not going to get away with that all the time, are we? So, yeah, in the short term, I think United look good, but in the long term, we all know we need investment, and we need to build on what this start is, and it is a start with Erik Ten Hag, and we need to build on it. And yet, we're talking this morning again about stories coming out from Samuel Luckhurst and Rob Dawson, and even the director of football a couple of weeks ago, saying that we don't anticipate spending in January and we don't anticipate having a summer like we've just had. And it's like, hold on a minute. If you spent, the simplest way I would say is, if you spent 200 million last summer, you've definitely got to spend 200 million next summer, and probably the next summer after that, because this is a 3-year plan. You are rebuilding that team. There are so many vulnerabilities in that squad where if we lose a certain player, we're in big trouble. So I worry about what the future plan is, because I think it's very obvious and it's very well known, and it's also public if you look in the right places, that United are not and have not got a lot of money next summer. It's well known. Even Richard Arnold said it in that pub interview. He said, we're all right for this summer, but next summer, dig out the quotes. I'll dig them out for the Friday night show tonight. He said words to the effect of, we're all right for this summer, but next summer isn't looking good. Well, that's next summer. So I'm worried about what the long term is, because we need investment. Is it time to try Charlie McNeil as a striker, says Darren? I think it's time to give Charlie McNeil time as a striker against the Cypriot side in the Europa League, maybe in the Carabao Cup against Aston Villa. It's not the time to throw him in a Manchester derby, no, not at all. That's not how you treat or develop young players. Whether it's Ryan Giggs, David Beckham, Marcus Rashford, you go through United's history of developing young players and you don't chuck them in because you've got nobody else in a Manchester derby in a big game. No, they need to be nurtured. And the most important thing about developing young players is putting them into an environment where they are protected and nurtured. You know, you bring Charlie McNeil on when you're 3-0 up against Everton at home and he's got Eriksen and Sancho and Rashford and Ronaldo and Bruno all around him, encouraging him, and 75,000 fans. That's how you develop young players, because their first few games are about confidence and getting used to it. So, yeah, we're not ready to chuck Charlie McNeil or any other young player in at the moment, and that would be completely irresponsible, and I definitely know that Ten Hag won't do that, so that won't happen. That won't happen at all. Guess what, Mark? What was that? Guess what, Mark? City are scoring in the first 30 minutes, but United will score in the last 30 minutes as player. We cannot concede against Man City in the first 30 minutes. I think it'll be a long afternoon if that happens. So, yeah, hopefully not. But look, I'm really looking forward to see what Ten Hag's got to say at lunchtime. And I think we are in that avenue at the moment where you've got short-term excitement but long-term trepidation. I am worried about what the future is at Man United. But in the short term, I think Ten Hag's doing a really good job and I'm excited. But he's got the full backing of the fans. 100% got the full backing of the fans. We wanted this manager and the backing's been fantastic and I think it will stay. He needs the full backing of the club, and no manager's really ever had that in the Glazer era. No manager has had full backing. Even Sir Alex wasn't getting players that he should have got. So that will always be the problem that bites us in the arse. And look, I really hope that we're going to get a day in the future where the Glazers sell this football club and give it to somebody who wants to invest in the club and the stadium and the structure. That's what needs to happen. The Glazers know it needs to happen, by the way. That is common knowledge. They know it's got to happen. They know there has to be investment in the club. They don't want to do it. They haven't got the money to do it. And they might be finding ways to keep hold of the club and get the investment in the club. But ultimately, that's got to happen. Protests or not, that has got to happen. And that's the hope I have. Would Grealish starting give you more confidence as Tiger? I don't think Grealish is a bad player, Tiger, but I'd rather Grealish started on the left than Foden, to be honest with you. But I don't think it means we're going to win. They've still got very, very good players. Sir Alex is a different breed of manager, complete GOAT status as time's end. And I think Sir Alex is the only person that could keep the Glazers in the role at the moment, where you can basically win titles with a squad that's not really good enough to do it. That's not going to exist in the modern day. I mean, yeah, you're not going to do that now. United can't just win titles without investment anymore. I don't think anybody can. You can't win titles off status. You've got to invest, and that's something that Glazers don't really want to do. And you're going to get people going, well, they spent £1 billion in the last 10 years. Yeah, they have, but they've took more than double that out, and the ground has not been renovated. So look, investment is not just about playing staff. It's about your staff. Have they ever brought in a CEO who knows what they're doing? Have they ever brought a director of football in who knows what they're doing? No, because they keep people in that are going to help them make money. Are we going to talk about the Ten Hag press conference today? Yes, it's live at 1:30, so we'll be live at about 1:45, reacting to what he's got to say. It's been a long time since we've heard from Eric, actually. I'm looking forward to it. So, yeah, tune in for that. Anyhow, thanks everyone for watching. Thanks everyone for watching. Make sure you smash a like on the video and subscribe, and I will see you at 1:30 today for the press conference. Well, 1:45. It'll be 15 minutes after that. Eric's back. Let's see what he's got to say. Obviously, I'll have all the injury updates as well.